Bang! To the teammates. Incredible scenes. What a weekend of football Arsenal fans got to enjoy. And what controversy that somehow has split opinion in today's Arsenal News Show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys and girls for another episode of what is indeed the Arsenal News Show. Why is my camera like that? Why are we skew with? There we go. That's what we want. That's better. Get Win in the picture. Lovely stuff. You know, we like a soft toy that irritates adults. Grown men annoyed by a soft toy. Remember that? That was fun. Right. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you listening and tuning in. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. And I hope you've had an absolutely fantastic weekend and start to your week, of course. Also, good morning to those joining us live in the chat box. Hope you've had an absolutely fantastic week. And I hope that things are going well for you, of course, too. Good morning to Olawale. To what a bit. This is going to irritate me now because I still don't like how YouTube. I'm gonna have to reach out because clearly there's names in here that I should know, pictures that I should know, but I just don't, and I'm sorry. But Matt G, I recognise, but Boadi, Seth, I'm sorry. Shari, good morning to you. Some of you have different ats to your names. Why would you do that? Why would you make your name different from your at? What's that about? Ours is just at the Gooner Talk. So why isn't Matt G's at Matt G? Or at this is Matt G? At hi, this is Matt G. That'd be really helpful. At Martin Harvey, what a legend. At Natty Tom. Shari, of course, as well. At Cold Fire. Barry. At Barry Hemmings. We love it. We love to see it. At Jeffrey. At Michael. Thank you guys for helping me out. At Mike Freeman. At Gary Griffin. All these people know how to do it. And then there's some people out there who just can't for some reason. Like Carrie Ann, who goes at Hatula. What's the relevance there? I don't understand. And then there's someone called Spearmint I've never seen before. At Spearmint Media. I hope their name's Spearmint in real life. Anyway, good morning to you all. Thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate all of you listening. And I hope you've had an absolutely great start to your week as well already, and that you're already typing in your brand new YouTube account ads to match your real names. But let's jump into today's stories. I first of all need to point you in the direction of the latest episode, of course, of the Seeing Red unofficial Arsenal podcast, where you can join myself and John Cross as we talk all things Arsenal. I'll leave a link to the latest video in the description, but I did repost this on our posts page of the YouTube channel. So if you go to the YouTube page, go to the little posts tab, you got like live videos, playlists, and then there's posts. If you click posts, you'll be able to see a link to the latest episode of Seeing Reds. So go give that a listen. We do these every single week. They come out every single Monday. So go and give the latest episode a listen. When we talk about the North London Derby, we talk about everything to do with the game. So go have a look at that. Now, let's talk about yesterday's final match of the last game week, which saw Everton, 10-man Everton, manage to secure a 1-0 victory after one of the maddest moments. Like, I think it's the third time in Premier League history this has happened. I think everybody remembers the Lee Bowyer and Dyer incident between the players at Newcastle. But this is like a modern day version, which we're all for. Michael Keane and Idrissa Gana Gueye coming together, and Gana Gueye striking the face of Michael Keane in the face. It's like one of those things where you're playing like your friend at a game, and you're like, I'm going to literally tie one hand behind my back to play you and still win. That's what Everton did yesterday. They were like, we feel quite sorry for you, Manchester United, so we're going to make things even easier and still beat you. I mean, Manchester United's absolutely hilarious. How on earth anyone thought that their season was going to suddenly turn out all right has learned nothing, absolutely nothing from what you have been watching. Now, this is a red card, right? This is 100%, million billion % a red card. It's violent conduct. It's done with malice. It's done with intent. It's a red card. And I'm so convinced that all the people that yesterday took the time out of their evenings to desperately try and justify to me that this was not a red card. I'm sorry, but if this was two Manchester United players doing this, I cannot see you applying the same energy. I just cannot see the same energy being applied if this was going on between two United players or two Spurs players or two City players or two Liverpool players. It's I cannot believe that this is even a discussion. I've seen the number of people I've seen reply to me with videos of Arsenal players or other footballers celebrating goals they've scored where they playfully slap the face of their teammate in some kind of argument that should this therefore be a red card? Should it be a red card to playfully slap the face of your friend during you celebrating a goal, as opposed to slapping the face of your opponent because you're annoyed at them for some kind of issue defensively where there's actual malice in the slap, where your intention is to hurt them? And some people feel that it is genuine adults over the age of 18 actually sending me video clips of Arsenal players celebrating or Chelsea players celebrating, playfully slapping the face of their teammate in celebration of a goal, trying to convince me that this somehow is the same. It's just utterly insane the lengths that some people will go to try and convince people that they have a point, that their view is justified by sending something with an entirely different context that is not violent conduct, where this clearly is violent conduct. It's just not. I get that people say that they don't want to see games ruined and that you can apply common sense, and that if it was between two different opponents, it changes the context. He slapped the guy round the face with the intention of hurting him. It's violent conduct. There is no debate here. It is absolute. And I get why people don't want it to be. I understand. I empathize completely why people don't want this to be, and why people feel that referees should just kind of grab the two players with a scruff of neck and say, sort it out, lads. What are you doing? But that's not how it works. The reason why the rule is there is to discourage this type of behavior, to be a deterrent to this type of behavior. What example is this setting to young kids who watch football and grow up and think that, oh, well, if my teammate does something that annoys me, I can go up and give him a slap and not get sent off for that? What kind of role model is that setting? What kind of example is that setting to young children that are growing up watching these people as role models, that see them as their heroes? I mean, I don't know who sees Idrissa Gana Gueye as a hero. Maybe some people do. But I don't understand why there is any such argument at all for anybody to think that this is anything other than a red card. I cannot, beyond my wildest nerve-ending connections in my brain, if that's even a thing. Synapses. Is that the word? Biologists, tell me. Scientists, explain to me. I cannot understand how anyone would want or even ever believe that any young aspiring footballer watching this should be shown an incident of a teammate slapping another teammate and think, oh, we can do that and won't get sent off. I just cannot for the life of me understand anyone trying to justify this wouldn't be a red card. I find it baffling. Absolutely baffling. Temi says a synapse is where two nerves meet. Well, there you go. I was right. Lovely stuff. Two or more nerves, pointing that out. Anyway, there's my rant over. My goodness me. Stop sending me clips of Arsenal or Chelsea players celebrating goals, slapping each other to justify this, because that's just hilariously incompetent. Anyway, moving forwards. Arsenal's open training session reveals all. Today, I will be at the Shubaruti Training Centre, of course, to witness Arsenal's latest training session ahead of their Champions League clash against Bayern Munich in the Emirates Stadium, of course, tomorrow evening. Really interesting game. I don't think it's a high-pressure game for Arsenal, which is quite good. You know, Arsenal have won the first 4 out of 4 Champions League games. And there's no doubt that we are in a very good position when it comes to qualification for the next round of the competition. But what I will say is that we have been waiting, I think, a long time for this open training session. Now, even in open training sessions, sometimes sometimes there's, some little bits of dark art. Sometimes players come out later than the point at which the journalists and photographers are in attendance for the training session to be able to witness what's going on. However, you absolutely have to feel that this is the best chance that we have got to getting an insight into who is and who is not going to be there. The players in question, of course, being Kai Havertz, Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus. I'd be very surprised if Gabriel Magalhaes is there as well. We know that Noni Madueke and Gabriel Martinelli have also now returned. But the big ones, of course, are Martin Odegaard, Gabriel Jesus, and Kai Havertz. They are the ones that we're going to be looking out for. They are the ones that we are going to be very, very, very interested in finding out. And Victor Gyökeres, sorry, I apologize, and Victor Gyökeres, as to whether or not they are going to be in attendance for this particular round of fixtures. So, yes, big names that we should find out. Gyökeres, Odegaard, Havertz, the main three. We think Jesus will be there, of course, because he's been training with the first team for a little while. But yes, those three, Havertz, Gyökeres, Odegaard, are the big three that hopefully we see back in training this afternoon. And of course, you can follow all the updates from that on my Twitter at Tom Canton Media. And we'll have a story out there on the Football.London website, of course, as well. So make sure that you are looking out for all of that information as and when it does drop, because there will be big stories, of course. And then it will be Mikel Arteta's press conference afterwards, which will follow, and we'll get some more detailed updates on the player fitness. And of course, if there are players in attendance like Gyökeres, like Odegaard, like Havertz, then they will, of course, be the subject of questions from the media. Unsure at the moment what I'm going to ask about. There's a couple of things that are on my mind about Arsenal and Arteta in particular, kind of substitution rotationally. I'm thinking about that a little bit at the moment. I'm also thinking about Arsenal's record from open play. Arsenal's last 11 goals, last 13 goals, 11 of them are from open play. Arsenal scored 7 goals in November. All of them have come from open play. So, yeah, there are, I think they all, rather, the most open goals that have been scored in this month have been scored by Arsenal. I think that's the correct stat. I think we have scored some goals from set piece. I think Burnley, obviously, we did. And Slavia Prague, we, of course, did from the penalty spot. But the 7 goals that we've scored outside of that have all been from open play. And that is the highest number of goals scored from open play by any team in England in this month, in the Premier League, at least, I think. So, yeah, it's worth adding that as well. But that's going to be very, very interesting indeed. The girl gaffer. I mean, this is where people's acts, again, somehow revealing things, says, are you going to ask Arteta whether he thinks Bayern is a must-win game? No, I don't think so. It's not. I don't think there's too much in that, to be fair. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I think it's certainly going to be worth hearing his thoughts on the latest regarding injuries and rotation. And we'll also be hearing from one of the Arsenal players as well, which, to my knowledge, he's a good talker. I can't tell you who it is at the moment, but I can tell you that I know who it is, but I don't know if I'm privileged to say. So I'm just going to say that whoever it is, when you find out who it is, they're a good talker. It's one of the best people to interview, I think, and they do give some good answers. He's done some Champions League interviews, of course, with Arsenal in the past, to give you a little clue there. But he is, so we'll be hearing from him a little bit later on today as well. So that is all positive as well. But if you want to keep things positive, well, you need to keep yourself protected, online in particular, and that's why using NordVPN over through our brilliant link at nordvpn.com/Gooner can give yourself a significant discount off a 1 or 2 year deal with 4 months extra thrown in free. On top of that, too, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee as well. So who can say any fairer than that? You listen to your favourites while you're abroad, change your geo-digital location on your laptop, your mobile, or indeed your tablet, and any of the territories that are supported by Nord, and shield yourself from losing your data to snoopers and criminals. No doubt about that whatsoever, that you need to get on board with the plan. Right, let's go to part 2, your questions and more, right after this. Right, let's go to part 2, where we're going into the chat box, tackling some of your questions, where some of you are going to try and justify to me, I assume, why that wasn't a red card at Old Trafford yesterday. We all know. Come on. just we're not going to get into it. I'm not even going to entertain it. It's not worth my time. It's just not. Mark says, since we played Chelsea Sunday, who would you rotate out of the starting lineup for the buy and tie and rest to preserve? Would you run some returning players for the game at the same time, or rather at the end of the game? I would certainly rotate some players this game. I think Miles Lewis-Skelly should be playing. I think Mosquera should be playing. I think that you could arguably start Madueke for this game after he came on and got some important minutes in the last game. So you could start him maybe. Ethan Nwaneri could start this game. I think there are arguments for a number of players to rotate in for this game. Trossard could move to the centre-forward position. Eza could play left. Nwaneri could play 10. There are options for us. I would make some change. I don't know about Ben White. Maybe Ben White, as Marky points out in the chat, potentially. I'm not sure. But I think there needs to be some rotation. Calafiori, of course, it's kind of been carrying a little bit of an issue, so I think it's an absolute must that Lewis-Skelly starts this game at left back. He will be going up against Michael Elise, which is no mean feat, or Carl, of course, although we don't really know which of the two it's going to be on the right-hand side. So, yeah, let's wait and see. Epidemic says, with Havertz and Jesus back, would you want to start Gyökeres when he is back, keep Marino, and bring back one of the other two boys as well? Honestly, it depends on who's fittest first, really, who's the most ready to play. When they're all back and all fit, it depends upon the game state, I think. It depends upon the game, the opponent, depends upon who's in form. That can inform things as well. So there's a lot of factors, I think, that are involved in this, and it'll very much depend upon the opponent, the form, the context, and the fitness levels of those players as well. Matt G says, is Nicholas Jova's job at risk due to our lack of set-piece goals in the North London derby? Almost certainly. Needs to step things up. It's just not been good enough. Anthony says, how injured do you think Gabby really is? The 1 to 2 months seems a fair fetch, or far-fetched, maybe that's what they mean, for me, with how much he was bouncing around in the North London derby. Well, 1 to 2 months is the guide. Weeks is what Arteta said, which would be 4 weeks, which is what 1 month, of course, is. So I think it's still pretty fair, but there's more scans set to take place next week, or this week. Philip says, any news on the new shirt sleeve sponsor, and could it be a nice touch to have one side a charity and the other side one more kind of a typical sponsorship? No, nothing yet. We don't know who it's going to be replacing Visit Rwanda for next season, but I, for one, am very glad that we are seeing a change of that sleeve sponsor. I just hope that it is for something better. I think I said on the Askcast that I'd quite like to see Battersea Dogs Home. I think that should probably be the sleeve sponsor. That's what I would choose. Let's go Battersea Dogs Home, please. Philly says, why are you not sure about Ben White? I'm just not sure about Ben White, because the level of fitness, the lack of minutes he's had in recent weeks, and his defensive... There's a couple of defensive question marks I've got about Ben White, and timber is so important to how we play at the moment. I'm just not quite sure. Maybe a half each. Maybe Ben White starts and Timber comes on after the halftime whistle. I'm not sure, but there's just something about Ben White at the moment. I'm just a little concerned about Benjamin. And I have been concerned, but maybe a performance will help me feel a lot calmer. Jordan says, would you be bothered if we lost the game and so we could have a full script? Look, if you told me that we lost this game but we won at Chelsea, I'm taking it all day long. If you said that we lose this game but it means that we win at Chelsea, I'm sorry, that's a deal that I am taking. I want to win both, but the reality is that this game just pales in comparison to the importance of the game against Chelsea. It really does. And I really want to win this game. I'm fed up of Bayern little broing us. I really am fed up of it. But it's just that we beat PSG in the league phase last season and then lost to them in the semi-final. So just because you lose to that team doesn't necessarily mean anything in the confines of the Champions League, especially when you've won the majority of your other games, as Arsenal have won all of them so far. Vishal says, Trossard deserves his flowers. His performances went under the radar because of Eza. It would be interesting to know if we can plan to keep him for next season. I really do think that I've done my absolute utmost to try and bring attention to Trossard. I've been asking Mikel about him. I just think that he deserves a lot of credit. A lot of credit. General Lou says, or rather, I think it's actually General Uskan says, "Hi Tom, do you think Chelsea having a day more rest will be a big effect on the game on Sunday? And if so, should Arteta rotate the squad for tomorrow?" Not a big impact, but certainly there'll be some element of it. And Chelsea can afford to rotate. They are missing some big players. Still no Cole Palmer. I feel like Cole Palmer he always dodges the Arsenal game somehow. But yeah, certainly worth it, I think. And I think there's worth bringing up the point, is what I mean about that. It's worth bringing up the extra day's rest, but we can't let that be the difference between the two. Sabusi says, or Sabusis says, just baffled by the way some of our fans have an issue with our team scoring from set pieces because they decided to foul our players in a dangerous zone, conceded a corner kick when we were attacking from open play, etc. Well, yeah, some people just like to moan, don't they? The girl Gaffer says, "Can I say that we won't keep a clean sheet against Bayern, or will you say that I am being negative like when I predicted we wouldn't keep a clean sheet against Spurs?" You're being negative. Amelie says, "I really hope that we see Jesus again. And honestly, I'd be a bit sad if we sold him in January." I'd be not only sad, I'd be annoyed if we sold Jesus in January. We've had so many injuries. Keep Jesus till the summer. Keep Jesus. And from his comments he made in a recent interview, it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere at the moment. So he seems happy at Arsenal, even though he's struggling for minutes and fitness. Vishal says, "Tom, anything on Nkapia? He seems to be hobbling off." Nothing. We'll hear from Arteta today, so we'll get more clarity on that very soon. Mark says, "Do we think Idrissa Gana Gueye will have his 3-match ban upgraded by the FA for violent conduct? And should he be considered? Should he be considering a career in MMA? I don't know if it will be upgraded, but it is a 3-match ban. I mean, Arsenal play Everton. Let's have a quick look. How many games will miss? 1, 2, 3. So he's not going to miss the Arsenal game. We'd have to be upgraded to like 5 matches for him to miss the Arsenal game. So I don't see that happening. But he deserves the ban, no doubt about that. Mr. Ann says, "We'll start our strongest available team against Bayern and Chelsea. They're important games. If anyone is carrying an injury, they should rotate, but we'll play the same team we did at the weekend." Wilson says, "It is about time that Arsenal deal with Bayern's ass at the Emirates." Jeffrey says, "Is Martinelli getting edged out?" No, it's just the timing, isn't it? Like, that's all we talk about. Is like when Martinelli's starting games, is Trossard getting edged out. Now Trossard is starting games when Martinelli's been injured. Is he getting edged out? No, we just have a great squad. We have great depth, and we need to learn that we have a lot of players that play in a lot of positions, and that's just how it is when you're at the top. Reggie says, "Tom, I don't understand why you wouldn't want the second leg at home throughout the Champions League." I mean, I do, but I'd rather that we won our game against Chelsea and the game against Bayern, if that was the question. I'd rather win both, obviously, but if it was one or the other, I'd rather win the game against Chelsea. Arthur says, "Tom, we will revenge Bayern either in the semis or in the final." Lasek says, "I admit it, I was wrong about wanting to sell Trossard in the summer. He is such a baller." Well, we all make mistakes, and you're allowed to change your mind. Atkins says, "I have seen it. Bayern 2-2 draw. We beat Chelsea 5-1 with Caicedo's stinker and a red card." Tom, have you seen the Spurs fans saying the ref favoured us? I mean, all the argument they have is the offside, which is not offside. I don't agree with Joe Hart. I wrote a piece on it yesterday. Vicario can see Ezra. He can see the ball when he strikes the ball itself. It's not offside. It's just a joke. So, yeah, no, not for me. Gary says, "I really think Gyökeres and Jesus will link well if they get a chance to build chemistry." Tony says, "Tom, am I missing something? Arteta will clarify that. When's that happened before?" Yeah, sometimes he has clarified things. Not all the time, but sometimes. He's not as bad, I think, as people make out, but he does like to keep certain things to himself. But we will see. Of course, we're going to be at the training session, so we will see certain things that just can't be hidden, obviously, as also. Amira says, "Tom, do you usually know or get hints about which player will be at the press conference beforehand?" Yes, I do. Do you think of questions on the spot, or do you have notes on the phone full of them for the players? I usually get a heads up on who it is, and I do know who it is, and so I have got some things in mind. I don't know whether or not I'm sharing them or not, but I've got some things in mind about who it's going to be. Clive's guess was wrong. And just text me to say never a red. And Clive's getting a lot of things wrong. I mean, let me find this message. I had a text from Clive that was like, "You were right." I need to find that message. You were right. Let me find it. It'll be somewhere. And I need to make that my screensaver. Just Clive telling me I'm right about things. And that he was wrong. The girl Gaffer says there was also a moment where Trossard and Michael Oliver shared a handshake before the corner is taken, but that was Oliver apologising for getting in his way. Yes, I wrote about that in my piece yesterday. And he says, I need Bayern scalps in the knockouts. In the league phase, it's just feel good psychological. We only need to remember PSG Arsenal last year. Absolutely. Philip says, any news on the shirt sponsorship? Nope. Nothing. We've kind of done that as well, I swear. We can't touch on that. Vintage George says, Tom, has there ever been a question in the past that you wished you asked but held off or regretted asking? Has there ever been a question that I regretted asking or held off from asking? No, I don't think so. Not that I can think, not off the top of my head. I mean, I asked Arteta at Anfield why he put Marino in midfield for that game. I asked I asked him why if he felt he was too conservative with his lineup at Anfield, which he didn't really like. He wouldn't like it, would he? But no, I don't think so. I feel like if I've ever had to ask a difficult question and it's not got a very good answer, I don't regret asking the question. I've regretted saying the word "we" in a press conference before. That was awfully embarrassing because, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan. Obviously Mikel knows that I'm an Arsenal fan. Obviously everyone in that room knows I'm an Arsenal fan, but it's just not the done thing. You're not meant to say "we" when talking about Arsenal. You're meant to say "you" or Arsenal. You're not meant to say "we." And I have done that, and I have got an elbow in the side when I've done that before from a colleague of mine, a friend of mine. So yeah, look, it's easy done. It's a hard mindset to kind of get out of. When you take your journalism hat off and you've just watched an amazing game and Arsenal have done something great, you're like, I feel so great, and I feel great being an Arsenal fan right now. I mean, Harry sat at the front of a press conference with a bag full of Arsenal shirts in a clear see-through bag before. He's not hiding nothing. But yeah, I did make the mistake of saying "we" a couple of times. Gary says, I'm gone having Capier or Mark Gueye as backup centre-back and Timber as first-choice right-back with Mosquera as backup right-back. That is an unbreakable defensive unit. Not that it isn't already, of course, as well. Mark Gueye would be a great signing, but I don't necessarily think we need any more defensive signings at the moment. Biko says, Tom, would I be wrong in saying that there has been a major shift in how the players and the manager see themselves compared to previous seasons? They look like they have no doubts that they are him or them. Yeah, I think there is a real sense of belief in this group, and I think there's inevitability really this season. And I hope that doesn't change. And I hope that, obviously, I think that the slip up against Sunderland, they responded to that so well. Awful timing to have an international break straight after, but look at the performance against Spurs. They responded to that in the perfect way. Northbank D says, do you remember your first time in the press room? Any advice for newbie journos in that situation? Yeah, my advice is never overthink whatever happens, because I had an awful time in my first press room experience. But the person I asked the question, you know the story. I asked Granit Xhaka a question, he refused to answer it. Awful experience, embarrassing moment in front of 20 other journalists who it was the first time of me ever being in a room with all of them. And it was awful. And I was very upset, and I thought I'd blown my entire career in that one moment. And it was nothing. I'm not going to say what the question was, because I always feel like if a player refuses to answer your question and it's in kind of a closed setting, then there's the right to keep that fine. It was genuinely nothing controversial. It just touched a chord with Granit that it clearly didn't like. And I've since interviewed Granit several times, and we are fine. So it's not. And I shook his hand afterwards as well, just to check that everything was all right. And it was. It was just one of those situations where you're like, you just asked the wrong thing in the wrong moment at the wrong time, and I thought my career was over. I really did thought I'd just screwed everything up in the first moment. So don't overthink it. Don't overthink. Don't try and be too smart. Don't try and just be sensible. And even if it doesn't go as what you probably won't get the answer you're looking for most of the time. You have to be used to that. You're probably not going to get what you think you're going to get, or the answer that you think you're going to get, or the story that you think you're going to get. So never have any expectation, is my feeling about a press conference. Never have any expectation. Last week, I asked Mikel about the Oxlade-Chamberlain interview, and I asked him about kind of having that edge and that nastiness that Oxlade described that they lacked during the time that Thierry Henry came back. And I thought it would actually kind of spark a bit of more discussion, but he didn't really like it. and you just have to accept that. You have to accept that sometimes you're not going to get the answers that you think you're going to get. So have zero expectation. Don't be afraid to jump, and obviously it depends on the setting. So the setting that I was in, it was like first come first serve. You had to jump in, you had to say your piece, you had to say your name, you had to be forceful about it. So in those situations, don't be afraid. Pay a little bit of respect to the people that are in there in the room at the start. But as the interview kind of progresses, you've got to have the confidence to jump in at times as well. No one's gonna be like, you go, your first time here, it's not like that. That's not what the world is. But obviously, just kind of understand the environment that you're in and then make the right decisions from that. But don't overthink anything is my advice always. And turn your phone off. Well, my phone's up. Well, I put it on flight mode or whatever, so no one can contact me. But I know I'm silent. But don't don't leave your phone on loud like a certain someone would in a press conference, especially if perhaps it was an alarm to tell people, or rather tell that person, that they needed to have their portion of soup. And instead it told Granit Xhaka that someone in the room needed their portion of soup. I wonder who that was. Weren't me, but I wonder who that was. Any guesses? Trust me, you should know, really. It's quite a funny story from the Arsenal YouTube space. Keystone says, having your facts straight is probably good advice. Someone match week asked about Arteta's perfect record as a coach against the club, and you could feel him when Arteta debunked. Yeah, it was that. Yeah, I won't say who it was. You probably know who it was. It was not exactly. It was obvious who it was because you could hear them. But yeah, everyone makes mistakes, though. It's easy done. It's easy done. I've probably said things wrong. I've said we, as I say, everyone makes mistakes. It's just kind of, you got to get over them and come back again with something better. I remember when I literally got into a back and forth with Eric Dyer after the Bayern game a couple of seasons ago, because I had not seen Gabriel picking the ball up in the box, which was a blatant penalty, and I hadn't seen it. So, yeah, it's one of those. Dara says, I seen a stat yesterday that if Liverpool didn't score the late winners earlier in the season, they would be 19th. With 10 from 36 points. That is mad. That is mad. And we were all saying it wasn't sustainable. We were all saying that what Liverpool were doing and how they were winning those games was not sustainable. It just wasn't. What bugs me is, obviously, we went to Liverpool at that stage of the season, and in hindsight, it looks like we should have been a lot more aggressive. We should have been a lot more, we should have been better than we were. Especially in the second half. We know that already. But I'm not going to lambast Arsenal for how they approached that game, because it was a different point of the season. It was really early in the season. They'd won all their games up to that point, and I think so would we. But we didn't know that the Liverpool team were what the Liverpool team were going to be. I also think that, all those people that just utterly fawned over Arne Slot last season and just completely removed all the context of Arsenal's injuries and City's injuries, and the fact that there was this kind of hangover from Jurgen Klopp's period at the club, from the squad that he had, for what they were achieving. And this season, they've lost a key player in Trent Alexander-Arnold, and obviously have been hit by the awful news of Diogo Jota's passing. They've spent huge amounts of money in replacing so many members of that squad, bringing in massive marquee profiles. And Arne Slot has so far utterly failed. There's conversations about whether or not he should be sacked or not. I said at the start of the season, Liverpool were the luckiest title winners we have ever seen last season. So lucky to win that title. And that, I feel, is being so vindicated and justified this season by what we are seeing. So justified. And all those people that were turning around going, oh, what phase is Arne Slot in? Winning a title in his first season. Well, you're seeing the manager that he actually is. This is why I've been on the Arteta train, because I feel that Arsenal are on a way to a title that is the first of many, of establishing ourselves at the top. That's the whole point of sticking by this project. It's because it's the idea of establishing ourselves at the very top and staying there consistently, not going up, down, up, down, up, down, or even just up and then down, 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 like some do. That's not what I want. I don't want a hiring and firing process of just you keep sacking managers if they have one bad season. We didn't have our best season last season. 24-25 was tough results-wise, but actually managerially, it was quite impressive what Arteta managed to do with the players that he had during that campaign. The whole point is the idea of establishing ourselves at the top for a period of dominance. And that's what I feel that we have been working towards for the past 5-6 years. And that's what I feel that we are going to hopefully reach the start of a new era this very season. If you've been a long time listener of this channel, I wish I could like type in the words and a video would pop up, because there would be loads of examples on this channel. How many times over the last few years have I been saying that 2025 was always seen as the year? 2025 was seen by Edu, by the club, by the management, by Arteta. 2025 was seen 3-4 years ago as the year that they thought would be the start of that title, really kind of challenging even, and they got there sooner than they expected. But 2025 was always pegged as being the year that Arsenal would go, would explode, would the coiled spring would unleash, and Arsenal would become and be seen as what they really are because of the work that's been done to build this squad. For me, that has been in the makings for a long, long time. And if Arsenal go on to win the title this season, I feel as though it will be the first of hopefully many, and not a case of winning one and then just falling away completely like Liverpool have this season, because that's not really success. Because to have success, genuine, real success, for me is about consistency. It's about staying amongst the elite over and over and over again. Winning, obviously, yes, is part of that. And if we were never to win something, then there could be no consideration of success. But if Arsenal win the title this season, it proves that those seasons leading up to this point were not failures. They were stepping stones to this point. They were stepping stones to this period and this, what I hope to be an era of Arsenal dominance at the top of the Premier League and amongst European elite, where Arsenal can compete and win trophy upon trophy upon trophy. And had we have stopped this project prematurely, we would have put ourselves in such a terrible position. And so many people called for it. I called for it after a season because I was too blind to see at that point what we were trying to achieve. After 18 months, I couldn't see a way forwards for Mikel. But thank goodness the club weren't as short-sighted as I was back then, and that they have carried on and maintained this relationship and maintained this faith in the manager that he is the right man, and that with the right players and the right squad and the right recruitment, once we have overhauled the team, which takes time, that they can be one of the most dangerous forces in this sport. And that's what Arsenal are now, is they are one of the most dangerous forces in this sport. And that comes from the faith that has been paid to the manager, to now the recruitment team, the analysts, the coaches, the players, and other members of the hierarchy. And there's had to be some difficult decisions made, and there's had to be some mistakes made along the way to get here. But yeah, for me, it has always been about the steady kind of the pushing the boulder up the mountain. There's that famous, I can't remember what the actual story is, but there's that famous story of kind of pushing the boulder up the mountain. The higher and higher you get, the higher and higher you go. The worry is the boulder, you're going to drop the boulder and it's going to roll all the way to the bottom and you have to start all the way again. Arsenal haven't dropped the boulder, in my opinion. Despite not winning those leagues, despite some people calling us bottlers, for me, they've still been pushing. They've slipped a couple of times, but they're still pushing that boulder up the mountain. And when they get to the summit, it's not a mountain that turns out to be kind of a point and it goes back down the other side. For me, you get to the top of that mountain and there's a plateau, and that plateau has trophy after trophy after trophy after trophy. That's what I see this Arsenal project being. Sisyphus is who it was. Thank you, Spearman Antomark. That is the story of Sisyphus. But I think, did he fail? I don't think we're going to fail like him. I think the analogy is a success of Sisyphus, where we actually do get to the top rather than him not. That's where I feel that we are going, is we're pushing the boulder up the top, but we're not like Sisyphus where he gets so close and falls. That we get there, and when we get to the very top, we see that it's not another steep gap down the other side, and that instead it is a plateau of success, of trophies. That's what I feel as though the Arsenal are heading toward. So yeah. I hope that's the best way I can describe it. Aoife says, Sisyphus, it's not a good story, but ours will be good. It's, yeah. The analogy was kind of going the way I wanted, and then like the actual example isn't the ending that we want, but I think it will be what we want it to be in the end. M1 says, "Hey Tom, hope you're well. Speaking on that belief, do you think Arsenal have the squad to win both the Premier League and the Champions League, or should we prioritise one? We've been burned before with Bayern." I think we've got the squad to challenge on many fronts this season. I think that we can just take game by game. We can take it match by match, and then let's see where we are come the end of the season. I think obviously we're favourites, I think, for every competition at the moment, which is just an absolute testament to where we are and what we are. So, yeah, I think so. Finney says, "Agree with all of that, Tom. The age and the depth of this squad, it's hard not to see us winning a lot of trophies." And he says, "It's not what anyone is saying. If Usain Bolt ran a 100-meter race, but his second and third competitors pulled out with a stomach bug, his race would suddenly have got easier." Liverpool 25-26. I wouldn't have described them as Usain Bolt because Usain Bolt has won and won and won and won consistently. They've seen every single 100-meter race he entered, they won. That wasn't the case with Liverpool. They've had periods where, you could call Man City Usain Bolt, and it was almost like the guy, you had Usain Bolt, which was City, and two other very fast racers that were, if Usain Bolt never existed, they would have won gold medals themselves. You could say they're Liverpool and Arsenal, and Usain Bolt and the other competitor basically went down with a stomach bug, and they were able to kind of win. That was kind of a better example of what it was than calling Liverpool then. Let's go to Tony says, "Didn't Henry VIII die of Sisyphus?" I don't think it was Sisyphus. I think it was something else, though. Similarly spoken. Very good. Very good indeed. Mark says, "I'm not sure we'll win the double or the treble, but I'll start with this. I fear no one in the Prem anymore, including City." Damn right. Matt says, "Is Tom analogy shaming?" Yeah, I'm analogy shaming right now. That's what we're doing. Anyway, that brings us to the end of today's show. Of course, please, for those of you that haven't already gone and listened back, there is a new episode of the Seeing Red Arsenal podcast with myself and John Cross. Where each week, every Monday, we release a new episode and we talk about the game that week. We do a little flashback segment where we look back to some of our favourite games of our opponent that's up next. So we look back at some of the big games against Bayern and against Chelsea in this week's episode as well. So make sure if you haven't gone back and listened to that yet, you go over to the Seeing Red unofficial Arsenal podcast. If you type in Seeing Red Arsenal, it will come up on YouTube or on your podcast platforms, of course, as well. So go and give that a listen if you haven't done so already. And leave a comment, leave us some feedback. We always appreciate it. If you didn't like it, don't tell me. I was listening to Romesh Ranganathan's podcast. I've really got into listening to Romesh's podcast. I don't really listen to too many, but I've really enjoyed listening to his podcast recently. And one of the things that he was talking about was like, tell us how if you like podcast, but if you don't like it, don't tell me. And I think that's a really good way. If you've got nothing nice to say, don't say it. That's what I think is good. But if you've got some feedback for us, if it's constructive, always I'll take it. But if you've got nothing nice to say, then don't say it. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Appreciate your time. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your day. And I will see you tomorrow morning to break down that game, or rather the training session from today and the press conference before the game against Bayern tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday, we'll have a show breaking down that game as and how it happened. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.